A very good noon and welcome dear students to the English class. Continuing with our chapter The Enemy, today we are going to have the further explanation of this chapter. This chapter is a bit lengthy chapter and that's the reason because we are doing it with line by line and that's the reason it's taking a little bit time. Okay dear students, so today we have to start from page number 37 from here. The servants cannot understand that. A conversation is going on between Hannah and Sadao, and where Hannah came and she told her husband, Dr. Sadao, about the servants, what they are thinking, what they are talking about. So let us begin. The servants cannot understand that, she said anxiously. No, he agreed. Neither seemed able to say more, and somehow the household dragged on. The servants grew more watchful. Their courtesy was as careful as ever, but their eyes were cold upon the pair to whom they were hired. So, dear students, Hannah said to Dr. Sadao that the servants could not understand Sadao's predicament. Sadao agreed with this. Both of them had nothing more to say. The course of the house continued, but the servants were vigilant. The servants, they have become more vigilant. They started to have a keen look on what their masters were doing. क्योंकि एक नया patient was there inside the house, American person, and they knew that he is their enemy. And they were more vigilant. They used to take care of each and everything of their masters. They were polite but unfriendly. Though they were polite, but they were not friendly as earlier servants towards their masters. It is clear what our master ought to do, the old gardener said one morning. He had worked with flowers all his life and had been a specialist in moss. For Sadao's father, he had made one of the finest moss gardens in Japan, sweeping the bright green carpet constantly so that not a leaf or a pine needle marred the velvet of its surface. My old master's son knows very well what he ought to do, he now said, pinching a bird from a bush as he spoke. When the man was so near death, why did he not let him bleed? Okay. Moss means a very small soft green plant. Normally it grows where the humidity is there, humid areas, moistured areas. Pine needles, basically very thin sharp leaves that grow on pine trees are called pine needles. And marred means spoiled. Marred means spoiled. So one morning the old gardener said that it was obvious what his master should have done. The old gardener had worked with flowers all his life and he was specialized in moss, that green plant which grows normally in the moistured area. He had been employed by Sadao's father, that old gardener. He was put on duty by Sadao's father. The gardener had made one of the best moss gardens in Japan for Sadao's father. He would sweep the bright green colored carpet of the moss clean so that the sharp leaves of pine tree could not spoil the soft velvety surface. He plucked a flower bud from the bush as he said that his master's son, and who is the master's son? That is Sadao, knew very well what he was supposed to do. He added that when the man was almost dead, he should have left him to bleed to death. क्यों बचाया? That young master is so proud of his skill to save life that he saves any life, the cook said contemptuously. She split a fowl's neck skillfully and held the fluttering bird and let its blood flow into the roots of a wisteria vine. Blood is the best of fertilizers, and the old gardener would not let her waste a drop of it. Contemptuously means disrespectfully, and wisteria vine is a flowering plant which is used for decoration. Now the cook, because there was a conversation going on, gardener said something and now the cook is saying, and the cook said very disrespectfully that their master was so proud of his skill at saving lives that he did not bother whose life he was saving. He just have to show off his skills, and it hardly matters for him on whom he is showing those skills. He just is so fond of saving lives, and this time because that American person was dying, so he saved his life without giving it a thought that he is not supposed to show off his skills on that American man because he is an enemy. Anyways, she cut the neck of a hen skillfully, fowl means hen, and held the bird as it shivered. Yuck. She let the blood of the hen flow into the wisteria plant. The old gardener had instructed her that the blood was the best fertilizer for the plants, and he did not allow her to waste a single drop of it. It is the children of whom we must think, Yumi said sadly. What will be their fate if their father is condemned as a traitor? Traitor means a person who betrays his country, who cheats his country. That person is known as a traitor. Now see Yumi, because she is quite senior, attached. So Yumi, she was worried about the fate of Sadao and Hana's children. She was worried about the children, two small children. She wondered that when they grew up, they would be labeled as the children of a traitor. As Sadao was helping an American, all the people of Japan would consider him to be an enemy of Japan, a traitor of his country. Now let's see. They did not try to hide what they said from the ears of Hana as she stood arranging the day's flower in the veranda nearby. And she knew they spoke on purpose that she might hear. That they were right, she knew too in most of her being. But there was another part of her which she herself could not understand. It was not sentimental liking of the prisoner. She had come to think of him as a prisoner. She had not liked him even yesterday when he had said in his impulsive way, "Anyway, let me tell you that my name is Tom." She had only bowed her little distant bow. She saw hurt in his eyes, but she did not wish to assuage it. Assuage it means to decrease it or to reduce it. Indeed, he was a great trouble in this house. Now see, the servants, they were talking, and they were talking intentionally because they knew Hana was standing nearby. Okay? So as Hana stood in the veranda arranging the flowers, the servants discussed the matter in her presence as they wanted her to know their views about the matter. Right? And intentionally they were talking in front of Hana. Hana also felt that the servants were right, but she had some feelings for the injured man which she could also not analyze. She did not like the prisoner, neither was she attached towards him. The day before, the injured man told her that his name was Tom. Hannah did not like him at that moment also. She had reacted by bowing her head mildly. She saw that her reaction hurt the injured man, but she did not want to reduce this hurt that she had caused to him, because the injured man was a great trouble to her. His presence was a threat to Hannah and Sadao. As for Sadao, every day he examined the wound carefully. The last stitches had been pulled out this morning, and the young man would, in a fortnight, be nearly as well as ever. Sadao went back to his office and carefully typed a letter to the chief of police reporting the whole matter. On the 21st day of February, an escaped prisoner was washed up on the shore in front of my house. So far, he typed, and then he opened a secret drawer of his desk and put the unfinished report into it. Okay, dear students, now see the explanation. Sadao was performing his role perfectly. He would examine the wound every day. One morning, the last stitches were removed from the injured man's body, and he would be as well as ever in the next 15 days. In the meantime, Sadao went to his office and wrote a letter to the chief of the police to report the entire matter to him. Sadao started his report, and he wrote that on the 21st of February, an escaped prisoner was washed up on the shore in front of his house. Sadao had just typed this much of the report. He opened the drawer of his desk and kept this unfinished report in it. On the 7th day after that, two things happened. In the morning, the servants left together, their belongings tied in large square cotton kerchiefs. Kerchiefs, handkerchief is the, you all know that hanky, and kerchief is a square piece of cloth which is little bit bigger than hanky. Okay. When Hannah got up in the morning, nothing was done. The house was not cleaned and the food not prepared. She knew what it meant. She was dismayed. Dismayed means shocked, you can say, and even terrified. But her pride as a mistress would not allow her to show it. Mistress, a woman in a position of authority or control, because she was the lady of the house, so that's the reason. There was an ego, that pride, and she would not allow her to show it. Instead, she inclined her head gracefully when they appeared before her in the kitchen, and she paid them off and thanked them for all that they had done for her. They were crying, but she did not cry. The cook and the gardener had served Sadao since he was a little boy in his house, in his father's house. And Yumi cried because of the children. She was so grieving. Grieving means in a state of sadness. That after she had gone, she ran back to Hana. Means now there is a scene of servants, those who are ready to leave Hana and Dr. Sadao all together. On the 7th day after that, two things happened. The servants of the house left in the morning. They had tied their belongings in huge pieces of cloth. When Hana got up in the morning, she saw that work had not been done. The house was dirty and the food had not been cooked. She realized that the servants were up to something. She was shocked and horrified when she came to know that the servants were leaving. Hana did not show her feelings to the servants. Instead, she remained calm and maintained her grace as the lady of the house. She paid the servants, she paid whatever dues they were having, and thanked them for their services. As the servants had been working there for many years, they were crying, but Hana did not cry. The cook and the gardener were very old employees. They had been employed by Sadao's father and had served Sadao since his childhood. Yumi was crying because she would miss the children. She was so sad that she ran up to Hana after she had left. Means she was leaving along with all the other servants, and then suddenly she took a turn and she ran back to Hana, and then again she left. If the baby misses me too much tonight, send for me. I am going to my own house and you know where it is. Thank you, Hana said smiling, but she told herself she would not send for Yumi. However, the baby cried. Yumi, because she was quite attached with the children, and that's the reason she said that if the baby missed her at night, she could call her. Hana could call her. She further added that she was going to her own house and Hana knew where her house was. Hana smiled and thanked her for the offer, but to herself she said that in case the baby cried, she would not call for Yumi at all. She made the breakfast and Sadao helped with the children. Neither of them spoke of the servants beyond the fact that they were gone. But after Hana had taken morning food to the prisoner, she came back to Sadao. So the next morning, Hana prepared the breakfast and Sadao helped her by looking after the children. Neither of them talked regarding the servants, but after Hana served the morning food to the prisoner of war, she came back to Sadao probably to talk something. Why is it we cannot see clearly what we ought to do? She asked him. Even the servants see more clearly than we do. Why are we different from other Japanese? Hana was very worried now, and she questioned that why they were not very clear about what they supposed to do. She also said that even their servants were very clear as compared to them. They were also having a clear vision what they have to do. She said that why were they behaving differently from other Japanese people? Hana wanted to say that as Americans were their enemies, they should not have treated the prisoner of war and they should have let him die just like any other Japanese would have done. Sadao did not answer. But a little later, he went into the room where the prisoner was and said briskly, "Today you may get on your feet." Okay, just wait. We are here. Yes, here we are. Today you may get up on your feet. I want you to stay up only 5 minutes at a time. Tomorrow you may try it twice as long. It would be well that you get back your strength as quickly as possible. So briskly means here, the spelling is little bit different, but the word is briskly, and briskly means quickly. Sadao did not reply to Hana, but after some time he went into the room where the prisoner of war was resting, and he spoke very fast. He said that day the man could get up and stand on his feet. Sadao also advised him to stand only for 5 minutes at a time. Further, he said that the next day he could try to stand for double the time, that is 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 20 minutes, like this way. Sadao also said that it would be good for everyone that the man regain strength as soon as possible. Sadao hinted that they wanted to get rid of the American as early because he had become a cause of trouble for them. Now see, while telling him that it's good you have regained your strength and you have started, you can walk for 5 minutes, he was giving a hint to the man, American man, that we are really fed up of you. You have become a reason of trouble for all of us, and we want you to please go now. So he has given a hint also that we are fed up of you and we want freedom from you now. Okay. He saw the flicker of terror on the young face that was still very pale. Okay, the boy murmured. Evidently he was determined to say more. I feel I ought to thank you, doctor, for having saved my life. Sadao saw that his words brought a hint of terror and scare on the face of the young boy. As soon as he said that you are a cause for our trouble, Sadao said these words, he saw the young boy's face pale, scared. His face was still very pale and colorless because he was very weak also. The boy spoke in a low voice and said, okay, that I will try to go away from here. It appeared that he wanted to speak something more, but he just said, the boy just said that he wanted to thank Dr. Sadao for saving his life. Don't thank me too early, Sadao said coldly. He saw the flicker of terror again in the boy's eyes. Terror as unmistakable as an animal's. The scars on his neck were crimson for a moment. Crimson hota hai, bright red color is called crimson color. Those scars, what were they? Sadao did not ask. So finally he thanked Dr. Sadao, and Sadao was very expressionless when he said that the boy did not need to thank him yet. It is too early to thank him. As he spoke this, that it is too early to thank me, he saw that the hint of scare again appeared in the boy's eyes. The writer compares the boy's terrorized eyes to that of a scared animal. The injury marks on the neck of the boy turned the bright red in color for a while. Sadao thought that what has caused those injury marks, but he did not ask the boy about them. He was little bit curious to know about those injury marks which were there on the neck of the boy, but he did not ask. So I think for today it is enough. I want you to read the chapter. Further explanation we will see in the next video. Till then, keep reading, dear students. Keep practicing. We know this year is very uncomfortable or not that happening or that good year for us. But yes, you can utilize your time. Make best use of your time which you are getting at home. Read your chapters. Practice your lessons. I will see you in my next video. Till then, stay safe, stay happy and stay healthy.